So we come back to verse number 29. We'll do it very short and very brief this time. So let us just chant. Stabdi bhavo rasaswadat.
Stabdi bhavo rasaswadat.
Tritiya purvavanmataha.
Tritiya purvavanmataha.
Aite samadhibhishadbihi.
Ete samadhibhishtabhi
Nayet kalam nirantaram.
Nayet kalam nirantaram.
So we said that whenever a thought is consciously entertained for a long period, that thought is also picked up by the subconscious mind. And then when your mind is so focused that the will is no longer involved, the subject-object division is not felt, which is what we call nirvikalpa samadhi, but the conscious thought remains. So he says, Tritiya Puravat Mataha, the third samadhi in the list. The first was Drishya, second was Shabda, and third one is Nirvikalpa. He says you have to apply the same method which you applied for Antara Samadhi also. And here he says Rasa Swadat, because of the Swadaha, the taste for the Rasa. The Rasa here means the affinity that one feels for the Vedantic meditation. Because when the mind quietens down, you get a certain amount of peace, a certain amount of joy, and you get addicted to that joy, and therefore he likes it more and more. And because rasa swadat, therefore because of your taste for that peace, what happens? Stabdi vahaha, stabdi bhavaha, stillness of the mind. The absorption of the mind takes place. The thought is protected from external disturbances, and which means that I am focused only on the Atma Akara Vritti. No Anatma Vritti disturbs my mind. So natural absorption caused by the complete focus on the Atma Vritti, that is what is meant. And then we talked about the fact that the word rasa has two meanings. One is Pratibimba Anandaha, which is the reflected Anandaha, happens in the mind when the mind is quiet, but it happens because of the vritti. There has to be a reflecting medium for it. So there is experiential pleasure. Experiential pleasure means that there is a reflecting medium. And this is one of the meanings of the word rasa. And the other rasa can be taken as Atma Ananda itself. The very nature of my happiness, that itself I can take. And here in this Dṛg-Dṛśya-Viveka, he's talking about the Atma Ananda. So in that meditative process, I am getting a taste of what is Atma Ananda. Of course, that because it is being experienced, it is a reflected Ananda only. But because of the nature of that reflected Ananda, and because my mind is quiet, I can understand that if this is the reflected Ananda, how much more peaceful is the actual Ananda, is the Atma Ananda. This is what has been talked about. And therefore, the author says that you should always be engaged in all these 6 types of samadhis throughout your life. So he says, Etahi Shadbihi Samadhibihi, practicing these 6-fold samadhis. Shadbihi Samadhibihi, you have to practice. Which one? Etahi, these samadhis. Which samadhis? Which we have talked about in the last 2-3 verses. The Antara and the Bahya Samadhi, divided into 3 each. So, and you must practice them nirantaram, continuously. And he says, how long should you do it? Kalam nayet, your entire life you should do it. Then only there becomes the nishtha, which we call Sahaja Samadhi also. So this is also talked about in the next sloka, which we will now chant. Okay, and one more thing here was, Meda raised a question last time. When I asked a question, is Nirvikalpa Samadhi compulsory for Jnanam? And hence for moksha, do you need Nirvikalpa Samadhi at all? Meda raised a question. And I didn't answer it fully because I wanted you all to give some, more mananam to it. So anybody else gets the answer, or if nobody else gets, we can ask Medha if she has the answer by now. Okay.
So, Raviji, sorry, you asked something. The network was not clear.
Okay, I was saying that last time you asked a question, right? You said basically that there is no difference, in your opinion, between samadhi and what? Do you remember the question? You said between samadhi and nididhyasanam, there is no difference, you said.
Yeah, Nididhyasnam.
Okay. So what is your view now? Did you think about it?
Raviji, there is a lot of
Raviji, is
can't
the
hear.
network is breaking a lot.
Yes. Yes, Raviji.
Network is bad?
Yes, sir.
Couldn't hear anything.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try to change the network 1 second. Okay, is it better now?
Yes, much better.
All right. So the question I asked was, Medha had made a remark last time that she thought there was no difference between nididhyasanam and nirvikalpa samadhi. So I was just asking her whether she has got any revised views on that subject or any clarification.
As you explained last time, you said that Shravanam is compulsory for moksha, whereas Nirvikalpa Samadhi need not be. And moreover, it is a temporary state bound by time. So it is not equivalent to Nididhyasnam in that sense.
Well, to add to that, the purpose of nididhyasanam is what? Is to drive the teaching into the subconscious. Right? And nirvikalpa samadhi can do that. So on the face of it, if it is post jnanam, see nididhyasanam, when you say, you automatically mean shravanam and mananam has taken place. But samadhi, remember, is from the yoga point of view. And the Ashtanga yoga point of view doesn't talk about too much about knowledge. So nididhyasanam definitely will drive the teaching into the subconscious because your teaching is already present. You already are aware of the teaching with a doubtless mind. Your mananam has taken care of the doubts. But when you do when you are in nirvikal samadhi, you may or may not have had the jnanam. You may or may not have gone through the process of shravanam and mananam. So that is the difference. If you have done shravanam and mananam, then nididhyasanam can drive it into the subconscious. But normally we say nididhyasanam is to enable you to get total focus. So it is a pre-jnanam process. But to address your point, you can't clearly say that, samadhi, for example, will not drive the teaching into the subconscious. It will. Because the very process outlined is that when you have consciously thought about something for a long period, and when you go into samadhi, when the subject-object division disappears, that thought goes into the subconscious mind. But we don't know. Nowhere is it clearly explained whether that thought will remain in subconscious mind. Is it a temporary feature or is it a permanent one? That is the only thing which I wanted to add to that. Okay. Right.
Yes, thank you.
Now let's look at verse number 30. So please unmute yourself and we'll chant. Dehabhimane galite
देहाभिमाने गलिते
गलिते
विज्ञाते परमात्मनि
विज्ञाते परमात्मनि
यत्र यत्र मनो याति
यत्र यत्र मनो याति
तत्र तत्र समाधयः.
तत्र तत्र समाधयः.
So this second line is oft quoted. I myself have very often quoted it during the Gita class, during the various lectures. So it comes from here. So now look at what he says. This now we're talking about what is going to happen after the sadhana. As a result of the sadhana, what is the sadhana phalam? What is the net result of the sadhana which you are doing? And what is the sadhana? Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. So remember, in Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam, which is the main sadhana? If I say you do SMN, Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam as part of Jnana Yoga, which is the main sadhana? Shravanam. Why? Why is Shravanam the main sadhana?
Because Shravanam itself will lead to Jnanam.
Because Shravanam gives you the Jnanam, the rest of it is supportive. And therefore in Sanskrit, the main Shravanam the Shravanam is called the Angi, the main sadhana. And Mananam and Nididhyasanam, the supportive sadhanas are called Angam. So there are two words, Angi and Angam. Angam is the part, the limb, and Angi is the main, the trunk. So Shravanam is Angi, Mananam, Nididhyasanam are the Angams. And what happens, he says, Paramatmani Vijñāte. So that's clearly very easy to understand. Paramatmani Vijñāte. So Jnate is from Jnanam. Jnate means to know, getting the knowledge. And V is maybe Visheshaha. So Visheshena Jnate. Getting a definite and getting very clear knowledge. So Paramatmani Vijñāte. When you get very clear knowledge of Paramatma, what happens? Deha Abhimana Galitam. So that's what you mean. Deha Abhimane Galite. Vijñāte Paramatmani. That second part has to be read first. Paramatmani Vijñāte. Having got clear knowledge of Brahman through Shravanam and Maranam, Deha Abhimanam Galite. Deha Abhimanam falls away. Galitam means to fall away, to go away. So, Deha Abhimanam goes away. And Deha Abhimanam can be divided into two types. Samanya Abhimanam and Vishesha Abhimanam. What is Samanya Abhimanam? That is present across in all people, including the Jnanis. So, Samanya Abhimanam means the association with the body-mind complex, the identification with the body-mind complex caused by a prarabdha. There is definitely there, right? All of us have this inborn association with the body-mind complex. And when did it start? At birth itself. And because of that association only, because of this samanya abhimanam only, which is caused by prarabdha. Why do we say caused by prarabdha? Because the body-mind complex is a result of the prarabdha only, because of which this body was born. And because of that prarabdha only, I experience pain, pleasure, old age, weakness, and all these things. All biological experiences happen only because of samanya abhimana. And we have to understand that as long as the prarabdha is there, the body will be there. And therefore, these experiences, biological experiences of pain and pleasure, of old age, shadvikara, all those things, they are not going to go away. Because as long as prarabdha is there, the body will be there. Will you have the body after Atmajnanam? Yes, you have the body after Atmajnanam also. And therefore, experiences in the form of biological experiences will not go away even after you become a jnani. Because it is not correct to say that jnani does not feel biological pain. Right? So, why does he feel pain? But we say he is not identified with the body now. But we are not talking about samanya abhimanam. When we say jnani is not identified as body, this identification, this deha abhimana resulting from prarabdha karma goes away only when the body goes away. So for a jnani and for an ajnani, samanya abhimanam is definitely there. And because samanya abhimanam is there, both the jnani and the ajnani will have biological experiences, which is pain and pleasure and old age and weakness. All those things they will have. White hair and everything you will have. Then what is the other one? The other one is Vishesha Abhimanam. This is in the form of an intellectual understanding, intellectual conclusion, you can say. A notion which is born from Ajnanam, from ignorance. So this Vishesha Abhimanam is what? That I am the body and that I am born. The death of the body is my death. This sense of mortality, this is the result of Vishesha Abhimanam. The pain caused by biological experiences is the result of Samanya Abhimanam. Sorrow is the result of Vishesha Abhimanam. Pain is the result of Samanya Abhimanam. Clearly, we should have this understanding in our mind that biological pain has nothing to do with sorrow. It's a result of Samanya Abhimanam because as a jiva, you are identified with your body that because of the prarabdha. And that identification is not going to go away. The sorrow results from what? From Vishesh Abhimanam, from the conclusion that, I am the body. This gives you the sense of mortality. And therefore, Vedanta does not address Samanya Abhimanam at all. Vedanta addresses what? Vishesh Abhimanam. The conclusion that I make, that I am the body, that is to be destroyed by Vedanta. And hence, Vedanta destroys emotional problems caused by wrong intellectual conclusions. Vedanta will not destroy biological pain. Nothing can destroy biological pain excepting the destruction, physical destruction of the body. Once this understanding is crystal clear in your mind, then Shravanam, Maranam, and Nididhyasana are no longer needed. You will not require any more sadhana. Once this understanding has become extremely clear in your mind, sadhana is not required anymore. You may choose to do sadhana. You may choose to do Shravanam. You may choose to do Maranam. You may choose to do Nididhyasanam. But you don't need it. And this is called Sahaja Samadhi. Sahaja Samadhi. Sahaja meaning easy Samadhi. Why? Because that teaching is remembered all the time. It's also called Brahmi Sthitihi in the second chapter. And we call it Jnana Nishtha also. So Sahaja Samadhi, Brahmi Sthitihi, Jnana Nishtha, all these are interchangeable terms. And once this happens, once you are, this teaching is there with you all the time, then what happens? That he says here, Yatra Yatra Manoyati. Wherever your mind goes, which means whatever be the experience of your mind, Tatra Tatra Samadhaya. In all these places, in every single experience, remember Brahman is available. There is no experience where Brahman is not available. And therefore, in the worst of experiences, in the worst of pain also, if your mind is open, Brahman is available as Sat, as the Sat principle, the existence principle. And when you close your eyes, Brahman is available as Chit principle also. Remember, Sat principle and Chit principle are not different. Sat eva Chit, Chit eva Sat. You cannot know that you exist without being conscious of your existence. Without being a conscious person, I cannot know that I exist. So it's clearly interlinked. And similarly, you can make another statement. I cannot be conscious without existing. So which came before is the question. Sat or Chit? You can't say something came before. And therefore, wherever you see, if you are conscious, whatever you see, that is Brahman alone. You are aware of the presence of Brahman as a substratum. This is what is being said. Okay. Any questions?
So Ananda will not be there.
Ananda is always there. But Ananda,
You said ki Sat and Chit together, so Ananda is also there.
yeah, Ananda is, it's taken as Ananta actually. Ananta Ananda. Whenever you think of Ananda in the terms of Brahman, it is just not pure happiness. It is that Ananta Ananda, that contentment resulting from the fact that you are Ananta, that you are infinite. Not wanting anything. Because in the infinite, everything is there. So when you look at that, you don't really have to say it because Sat and Chit is infinite. That's why when we talk about Sat and Chit. Ananda is rarely talked about, but Ananda is very much part of that.
Okay, thank you.
So I hope you got this part clear. No more questions? Then we can go to the next verse. Okay. So please unmute yourself. We'll chant. Bhidyate hridaya grantihi
भिद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिः
छिन्द्यते सर्व संशयाः
भिद्यते सर्वसंशयः
क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि
क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि
तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे.
तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे.
So the author quotes a mantra from the Mundaka Upanishad. This is not part of his own thing. He has just borrowed directly, word to word, from the Mundaka Upanishad. So he says, Tasmin Drishte Paravare. So the two words, Para and Avaram. So Para means superior, Avaram means inferior. So Paravaram, superior and inferior, means what? Param refers to Karanam. Avaram refers to Karyam. And therefore when you say Paravaram, you are saying Karya Karana Rupena. What is that? What is in the form of Karanam and Karyam? Come.
Brahman.
Brahman is in the form of
Brahman.
Little more refinement on that.
Karana Ishvara, Karya, the Jivas.
No, Karana is Brahman.
Is Karanam Brahman? He's saying, you look at the verse. Tasmin Drishte Paravare. That is seen as Param and Avaram. The translation is that itself is seen as Param and Avaram, as the superior and the inferior it is seen. What is that? What is the Karanam and what is the Karyam he is referring to?
Vishwarup Darshan, seeing Brahman everywhere.
No. First, specific. When he says Paravare, he is referring to Karan, superior and inferior, which means Karanam and Karyam. He sees that appears as Karanam and Karyam. So what appears as Karanam and Karyam?
Ishvara.
Ishvara. Why? Why is
Prakriti and
Brahman not the right answer?
I think
Because
Brahman.
Brahman does not participate, it's only the substratum or
Brahman
catalyst.
is only substratum, but Brahman is only the Akarta entity. And the Karyam Karanam is what? The Karanam is act, the Karyam, the product is what? The product is Jiva or the universe. And if you say Ishvara is the Karanam, remember you cannot say Brahman is the Karanam. You have to say Ishvara is the Karanam because Ishvara is what? Brahma Sahita Maya. Maya Sahita Brahman is Ishvara. Maya is matter, Brahman is consciousness. So Karana Karya means a combination of matter and consciousness. Ishvara is also a combination of matter and consciousness. This universe with all its jivas is also a combination of matter and consciousness. And therefore he says, Tasmin Drishte Paravare. That Brahman appearing as Ishvara and as Jiva. So you are talking about Brahman, yes. But the Param part of it and the Aparam part of it, think about. There is the Karanam who is Ishvara, and there is a Karyam who is Jiva. And therefore, Brahman with Avyakta Maya is Karanam. Brahman with Vyakta Maya is Karyam. That understanding has to be clear. So, both Karanam and Karyam are Ishvara only. Clay is what? Karanam in clay form. Pot is what? Karyam in clay form. Clay is Karanam, but in the form of clay. Clay is also Karyam, but in the form of pot. And therefore, Ishvara is Karanam in the Avyakta form. Ishvara is Karyam in the Vyakta form, which is the universe and the Jivas.
So when Ishvara is in Abhyakta form, that is only Brahman, right?
No. Brahman plus Avyakta Maya, that is Ishvara.
I'm just want to clarify one thing.
Yeah.
Cause Brahman is the cause of everything.
No, you cannot say, see, it's very loose usage because you are saying that Brahman is Akarta.
Yes.
And when you say Brahman is Akarta, how can a Akarta be the cause? So what you say is that Maya is necessary for the world to be formed, but Maya is Jada, and Maya gets activated only due to Brahman. Only in that sense you can say Brahman is the cause. But if you're going to make a statement about the cause of the universe, that is Ishvara only. That is Brahman plus Maya.
Okay.
That understanding has to be extremely clear.
Okay.
It's a very normal usage to say Brahman is the cause. But in effect, when you say that, you're attributing, Karanatvam, that
But
status of being a cause to
okay.
Brahman. That is wrong.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So he says Tasmin Drishte. When this is very clearly understood, what is understood? That the Karanam and the Karyam are Brahman alone. This is called Aparoksha Jnanam. Clear understanding of the fact of Tat Tvam Asi. That Lord and I are not different. When that understanding takes place, Hridaya Granthi Vidyate. So Granthi is normally a knot. And here it is taken as Hridaya Granthi because the ignorance is said to be in the mind. And once that knot is cut, then Vidyate, the knot is sliced and opened. And once that knot is open, what happens? Sarva Samshaya Chedyante. All doubts are destroyed. Sarva Samshaya Nashaha happens. And when Sarva Samshaya is lost, is destroyed, what happens? Asya Karmani Shiyante. Asya means of that seeker. Karmani Shiyante. Karma means all the three karmas. Shriyante means destroyed. So, Sanchita, Prarabdha, and Agami. All three are destroyed. What is to be carefully understood in that statement. When we say all three, asya karmani means all three karmanis are destroyed. But something has to be very carefully understood when you say that. What is that? Are all three karmas really destroyed for a jnani?
Prarabdha karma is going to be still present from the jiva point of view.
Which karma?
The prarabdha karma.
Why is it going to be present? Why cannot be destroyed?
Because the prarabdha karma is going to be there until the body is there.
Excellent. So when you say all three karmas are destroyed, you have to understand that prarabdha karma is as good as destroyed. It's like the fangs of a snake being removed. The snake will be there, but it is no longer capable of harming you. This is Jivan Mukti. So this is understood only when what? When you know that it's said in very many ways it has been said. Ishvara and I are the same. Karanam and Karyam are the same. When you understand this, then you are a jnani. This is called Jivan Mukti. And we are saying all three karma are destroyed because even though your body will continue to be there, the experience of the body will no longer be able to hurt you. You will be free of that. So, Hridaya Grantihi Vidyate refers to Jivan Mukti. Individuality is another name for mortality. So, once I know that, the insecurities all go away. And Asya Karmani Siyante means the three karmas are lost. And this can be understood in two ways. One is that Sanchita is destroyed, Agami is as good as destroyed, and Prarabdha, the fangs are gone, but it remains. The other way of understanding is that this verse refers to the time when the body of the jnani falls. So because the other two have already been destroyed, jnani is already a Jivan Mukta. When his body and his karma account has got nil balance, excepting for the running prarabdha. So running prarabdha is destroyed when the body of the jnani is destroyed. And therefore, this can be understood as that also. That when the body of the jnani falls, his karma account is completely destroyed. All the three karmas are destroyed. So from the viewpoint of the world, what we call Vyavaharika Drishti, the jnani merges into Ishvara. Okay, there's a very important statement. From the point of view of the world, the Vyavaharika Drishti, on the death of the physical body, the jnani merges into Ishvara. But from the Paramarthika Drishti, jnani merges into Brahman alone. Okay, this you must understand. There are two ways of seeing. From the Vyavaharika, we will say that jnani has merged into Ishvara. From the Paramarthika Drishti, we will say that jnani has merged into Brahman. That's why Drishtam, he says, Aparoksha Jnanam. Through this Jnanam, one gets moksha. Now, I must tell you also that this 31st verse, in the original text, this is the last verse. The main teaching ends over here. If you see Chinmaya Mission, I think the book has, there were only 31 verses. But I'm taking a book which has 46 verses. Because the other verses are also very beautiful. They have been added on by other acharyas. Names we don't know. But these some 14 verses are there. 32 to 46. They can be taken as independent works, or they can be treated as a separate portion of this particular text. But we'll continue to do because there are some very beautiful ways in which the summary has been made. In fact, the rest of the verses are only summarizing what has already been taught. But summary is a nice one. So we'll take those from next class also. Okay. Any questions? We have taken quite some time over this because there was some disturbance in the middle. I was away for a month and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's been a very good text to do, which I've been wanting to do for quite some time. Okay. So if no questions, then we can stop. Otherwise, if any questions are there, I'll answer. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for patience.
Om Namah Shivaya, sir. Thank you.
Namah Shivaya. Thank you.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Acharya.